Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, traders, and welcome back. Hope everyone had a restful weekend and ready for another busy week. We do have kind of a busy week of some economic data that could create some volatility in the market. So how about we take a look at what happened overnight here in the markets. First off, Asian markets trying to catch up with the big booming move on Friday in the U.S. markets really lit up and moved higher. We had the Australian markets up just $5 or 0.06%. But boy, Hong Kong really took off, up 490.77. 1.94%. We had South Korea up 41.13, which is 1.3%. We saw the Nikkei up 144.53.41%. India was up 97.65. 0.39% higher, and Shanghai up 57.80, up 1.51%, and a very bullish overnight there for Asian markets. If we take a look, however, what's happening in European markets this morning, not quite so bullish. We have the DAX at the moment down 74.16 or 0.30%. We've got the FTSE up $12.20, 0.13%, while the CAC is lower by 50.95 or 0.64% this morning. Looking at U.S. futures at this moment, about 5:30 a.m. my time, we've got the Dow futures down 106 even. We've got the S&P 500 futures down $19.25, and the NASDAQ futures down 94.25, relieving some of that overbought pressure from Friday. If we take a look at our bonds here this morning, well, our bonds are a little bit higher here today. We've got the 2-year bond coming in at 3.71%. 10-year bond is at 4.27%, and that 30-year bond coming in at 4.91% here this morning. Now, as a result, our dollar is a little bit higher here today, although we did kind of break this trend here to the upside. We're trying to catch a little bit of price support right in here. So keep an eye on that dollar. Little sketchy here at the moment, to be honest, and we'll want to watch that pretty closely here as the dollar tries to pick up a little bit here today. Well, that, as normal, has a negative response to precious metals. If we take a look at GLD after a zooming move on Friday in gold, we've got gold right now down $8.20 an ounce in the futures, pulling back here just a little bit. Silver also after a big boomer move on Friday, pulling back here just a little bit on silver, down $36 an ounce at $38.69, and gold is at $3,410 an ounce at the moment. If we take a look at copper this morning popping up, a big move there on Friday, but it's trying to push a little bit higher here this morning, up just a little bit on copper futures. And then if we've got platinum is a little bit lower, had a big popping move, trying to break that resistance here in the chart, but by the end of the day it pulled back. Now seeing a little bit of weakness coming in, down $8.70 an ounce in the futures. And palladium also lower here this morning, ran right up into that downtrend line and pulling back here, down $4.70 an ounce so far this morning. If we take a look at the impact on those cryptos here today, well, they're feeling a little bit rough here this morning as well after a big zooming move on Friday. Well, we're getting kind of a nasty little turn here on Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin down $1,847 a coin here this morning, or 1.66%. And Ether, that just zoomed on Friday, also down pretty substantially, but still in a bullish pattern. $293 a coin lower here this morning, or 6.05%, and feeling some red across the board in those crypto markets here this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on in oil. If we take a look at USO just a little bit higher here. We've got oil futures up 45 cents. Right now at 64.10 a barrel. And if we take a look at Brent is coming in a little higher at 66.11 a barrel. But boy, when we take a look at natural gas, just continuing to plummet here. The UNG ETF, you can see in here, this is the lowest price ever recorded in UNG as that natural gas continues to fall. And you can see this morning down about a little over 4.5 cents here this morning on natural gas. So looking pretty ugly. If you take a look at the Boyle also ETF in here, if I go to a weekly on that, you can see also registering new record lows here in Boyle. So nobody is liking natural gas here at the moment, apparently. So keep a close eye on that. Let's take a look. Well, hey, how about I think that's it. So how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Now, remember, we want to look at the markets for what they are, not for what we want them to be. We want to shake off that bias and really focus in on what we've got going on here. Well, first off, when we look at the diamonds, there isn't any way you can look at that chart as a bearish chart. Big zooming move, gapping up on Friday, and then when we got that information from the FOMC, the market just went like a rocket to the upside. So we finally made a new record high here in the diamonds, and solidly so. But we went a little bit nutso here, and we got a little carried away, and so this morning we're getting a little resting pullback here in the diamonds, which shouldn't be a major surprise to see after such a big zooming move to rest. But if those bulls can find inspiration here today in any of the data, we need to see that breakout up here, and then new record highs after that, blue sky above in the diamonds. If the bears were to push back, and I think there's a pretty good likelihood of at least a little bit of consolidation or rest here. If we rest back, what's going to be key is we hold this area of price support. Now, unfortunately, that's big point moves for that to come all the way back there. We'll want to also be keeping an eye on this upside trend. If we can hold in here, just a little resting pattern or something like that, then that continues that bullish pattern. I think if we were to suddenly break back down below this area of breakout up here, that would really probably raise some considerable fear in the market. I don't see that happening. I'm not expecting that to happen, just laying out all the different options here for the diamond. So watch that closely. So really stretched up here on Friday. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY also stretched up, and at one point in time we were up here tagging new record levels here in the SPY on Friday. We settled back, and you can see if we look right in here where we actually closed at a new record high here in the SPY on Friday as well. Catching just a little bit of pullback here this morning, not a major surprise. Here again, we have that situation where if those bulls can find inspiration today, then a pushback up to see if we can break up through this high here does seem like a likely possibility. And then, of course, blue sky above in the SPY if that is possible. If the bears were to have anything to say and we push back, notice we've got a little bit of price support right in there. We could retest that area of price support. Breaking down below there might raise a little bit of concern. Remember, if we break about half of that candle to the downside, there'll probably be a little bit of worry in here. But if we take a look at this upside trend, we could rest all the way out in here and really not create any major damage in the chart. Once again, it would be if those bears had enough inspiration to push this down and we were to break back down below here, probably raise some concerns in the market. So particularly if we took out the low of that candle. So watch that carefully here on the SPY right now. It's all bulls all the time, and we got just a little bit carried away there on Friday in that bullishness. So watch that carefully in here. If the bears do push back, it could be a little bit painful on a pushback, but watch that closely. And then QQQ. Also having a really good day here on Friday, but it really didn't do any major technical change here in the chart other than the fact that we did hold this higher low. So that higher low, we've maybe flattened our trend. See, our trend was pretty steep, and now maybe we flattened our trend just a little bit more easing up in there. But as we rallied up, we smacked our head into this resistance and then pulled back. So here's the concern with a QQQ. If the bears were to have anything to say and really start pushing this down, technically this could become a lower high. And you could see in that situation, we have that possibility of a head and shoulders pattern that could occur in that. At the same time, we have a pattern in here that is a wedge. We've got this little downside move, and because we made a higher low in here, we're in a wedging pattern, which puts us in that situation where we've got about a 50% chance of breaking through to the upside or breaking through to the downside. Right now, I'm going to have to lean to the bullish side because of all the bullishness that the market has seen. But if we were to whipsaw in here, that's where that could maybe come into place. Now, if the bears, if the bull, well, first let's talk about the bulls. If the bulls can find inspiration and break through this resistance, that would be very good for the QQQ, and then we could start stretching back up here to see if we can test some of these additional resistance areas on the way up to new record highs in the Qs. If, however, the bears were to have anything to say and start and continue pushing this back down, what's going to be critical here is this upside trend and this area of price support. If we were to give up this big white candle here and push back down below there, that would raise some concern in the market and probably put us into that situation where we could move on through testing this area of the chart and maybe even breaking that down. So watch that carefully in here if that head and shoulders were to come into play. Last but not least, if we look at IWM had a whopper of a day, really pushing strongly, gapping and running in a big way, and now just getting just a little bit of pullback here in IWM. Now, IWM, if we continue to find that bullishness here in the market, I think there's every reason to believe here that we could push right on up and start testing some of these areas up here and really start stretching for that opportunity to maybe break out and make some new record highs here in IWM. Now, you will want to notice that record highs in IWM, we've got a long ways to go to get there, but with that good push that we had here on Friday, I think that's certainly possible. So watch that carefully. Now, if we were to get the bears doing anything and they were to rest in here for a little bit, resting or pulling back in here, I'm going to redraw this trend because I think that's our new trend, and I'm going to tighten that up off of that tail so we can come closer in there on that trend. So we flattened this out just a little bit at the moment. I would watch that carefully. If we were to rest or consolidate in here, I don't think any problem is going to happen in here at all in any resting pattern, unless we were to maybe break back down through this area of price support. Breaking back down through there would raise some concern, and then we'd have that chance of attacking this candle low. If that were to occur and we get that full reversal here on that candle, that's going to raise some concern in the market. But for now, I don't see that probably happening. Now, if we take a look at our VIX here today, our VIX, let's get the VIX. Our VIX completely reversed on Friday, all in one fell swoop. We fell and we made new lows here in the VIX. So now we're in a situation where we could be trying to attack levels down in here in the mid 13 handles area of the chart. And remember, when we start getting down into these zones, we start to get into that complacency area here of the market. But right now, the market doesn't seem to care. It just wants to run to the upside. So watch this carefully. The little bit of pullback that we have coming into the market today could get this to really bounce back up here just a little bit. If the bears were to push enough, breaking back through that area of resistance right there, I don't think that would raise any major concerns in the market. It would be if those bears really grabbed a hold of something and got something done here and we started pushing back up through this area, then we might start worrying a little bit here in the market, but only a little bit, because it's only going to get ugly if we break back above that big black candle here in the VIX. So bulls are definitely in control here in the market. The only concern right now really in the indexes is the QQQ, where we have a possible topping pattern starting to come into play. If we take a look at our T2122, this is where we have a little bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem meaning that we are pinned against the ceiling here. T2122 just zoomed and we slammed directly into this upper level. Remember, take this back as far as you want to go. T2122 cannot go over 100. We're up here in the rarefied air in T2101. So a little bit of rest or pullback here today shouldn't be a major surprise. And it may last for more than just a day because we do have that uncertainty of some economic data coming our way this week that could, well, it may or may not upset the apple cart here. So a little bit of uncertainty there. So watch that closely, a little rest or pullback. Remember in this, if the bulls have any inspiration, there really isn't much room for there to push here in T2122. We've got just a few points up here before we reach 100. If the bears were to get really active, well, just notice we have opened up a huge area for the bulls to work, or excuse me, bears to work in. So watch that carefully if those bears were to really get going here on some piece of data in the market. Right now, there's nothing to suggest that. Just an extremely overbought situation in the short term. Little resting pullback couldn't be a major surprise. If we take a look at our T2108 percentage of stocks above the 40-day, zooming move on Friday, just ripping through here. We went from 50% to well over 60% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. Now, you want to notice that if the bulls can continue to push, we start moving up here into this 70% area of the market. You'll want to notice that we really haven't been able to break out of that area for a couple of years. And when we break out of that area, up toward the 80 area, this zone up here is that rarefied air. It's really frothy for the market to be up in that area. We almost always find a way to pull back from there. So watch that carefully. If the bulls continue to push, then let's see if we can get back up here and retest this resistance around that 70%, but be very watchful for that potential of a pullback. Now, if the bears were to have anything to say today, and obviously they're doing something this morning, no particular worries. A little pushback here and hold on to 60% would mean absolutely nothing, no worries. Back toward 55%, probably no worries at all. We might raise a little bit of concern if we were to push all the way back here to 50% all of a sudden, but I don't expect that to occur. We've got a nice upside trend. We're hanging in here nicely. If we were to pull back, maybe back into here, seems kind of likely. So watch that carefully on T2108. Now, T2107, zooming move on Friday as well. This has popped us out to new highs here. We haven't seen these highs here in, well, since 2025, we haven't been up this high. So really pushing strongly in here, and you can see pushing up toward this congestion area here up into that 55% area. Anything pushing through there, we could certainly be up here testing up here in the 60% area and all that congestion here in that chart. Remember, once we start reaching up toward that 65 area here in T2107, we're in kind of that rarefied air situation where we're really stretched in the market. So watch that carefully as we start pushing up into that area, or if we start pushing up into that area. With a little bit of bearish activity that we've got going today, I would say a pullback. There's that upside trend. A pullback into here to retest this 50 area would not be out of the question and really wouldn't hurt anything at all. It would be if we broke down or gave up that Friday move all at once. That would raise some concern, but I'm not expecting that to occur today. So watch that carefully here in T2107. T2101 had that nice breadth improvement on Friday and just zoomed after that news came out. We're back up here testing this downtrending area here in T2101, and the question, I guess, at this point is if the bears were to have anything to say, if they can really get going today, well, we're going to need to see some breadth on that bearish side. That's the thing in here that I suggested. If the bears couldn't do much in here, continue to on a push down and start lifting that breadth, that was going to bring in those bulls and get them excited. And well, it really got them excited on Friday. So watch that carefully in here. If the bears if we see this pulling back here today and the bears don't show any increase in breadth, then I wouldn't worry too much. I would say we're probably in a little resting consolidation from being overbought, and the bulls are still very much in control. If the bears were to get enough energy in here to push this breadth higher on a bearish wave, that's where you're going to have a little bit of concern. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, this week we've got a little bit more meat in here for the market to chew on. If we start off today, we've got the Chicago National Fed activity index in here. We're also going to get the new home sales. They're looking for that to improve just slightly, 628,000 up from 627. So a little bit of improvement in new home sales. We're going to get the Dallas Fed manufacturing survey. Remember, we saw some pretty ugly manufacturing numbers last week, so watch that carefully in here. And then we've got a 3 and a 6 month bond auction going off today, and we're going to hear from Logan and Williams today. If we look into Tuesday, this is where we start catching some of those market moving numbers. First off, we've got durable goods orders coming in here. Barkin, Case-Shiller, FHFA house pricing index and consumer confidence, or Richmond Fed manufacturing number, along with those bond auctions and money supply here on the day. Wednesday, relatively light. We get the mortgage applications and petroleum status with some bond auctions, a little bit of Fed speak in there. But boy, we really ramp it up here on Thursday. with that uncertainty, with the GDP number coming in, we've got jobless claims, corporate profits, we're going to get pending home sales, a natural gas report, and then, of course, bond auctions. And at the end of the day, we've got the Fed balance sheet in here. And then as we look into Friday, well, we knew it was coming. Let's hope these numbers support these high prices. Otherwise, get ready for a little bit of pain. But we've got international trade and good numbers that will be out, and then the personal incomes and outlays, which is the Fed's favorite number in here. So watch that carefully. We got retail inventories, wholesale inventory, Chicago PMI, consumer sentiment numbers. It's going to be a busy week with certainly some market moving numbers in here to be paying attention to, and starting tomorrow with that durable goods and consumer confidence. So you could see that possibility of a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of resting consolidation in the market just due to that uncertainty. Now, if we take a look at our earnings calendar here for today, not much going on here. We're going to get PDD, which is the holding company for Temu. If you're into Chinese issue stocks, keep an eye on that. Nice push here this morning on that earnings report. That's really the only notable here for this morning. This afternoon, we've got HEI that will be reporting, and SMTC for those notable reports to be paying attention to. And that's really it for the day. As you know, we're kind of winding down some of those earnings reports. But that being said, with that wind down, we're going to hit NVIDIA this week. So be prepared for that. On Wednesday, we've got the NVIDIA report. So look for a tremendous anticipation on that report. Whether it's going to be bullish or bearish, that's, well, yet to be seen. But keep a close eye on that report for Wednesday. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor in here, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. Remember, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and even on the comment side, just an emoji counts as engagement with the video, and that helps the algorithm to show these videos to more folks. So thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. Hey guys, I want to remind you that we still have this $7 offer for a trial here in Right Way Options. But I want you to know that this is not going to last forever. We're going to start raising these prices back up. I mean, if you guys can imagine working for $7 for 30 days, we know it was going to be a limited time. We're probably going to start moving that up. So take advantage of it while it's here. Or don't ask me to lower the price again because you missed it. Watch that carefully here. We will be probably raising those prices up here relatively soon. So take advantage of it while it still exists. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up here for the day. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. We are very extended in the market, but that doesn't, doesn't mean that there aren't bullish charts out there. There are bullish charts. There are some bearish charts out there as well. But let's take a look at a few of these that may be setting up for some upside moves. First off, I put an alert here on Uber on Friday, and then that just took off with the market here, really popping up. So if this were to rest or pull back in here, I would look for that next opportunity here in Uber, and we might get stretching up here through that high and see some new highs in Uber. So watch that carefully. Beautifully bullish chart, worth paying attention to. I would also be keeping a real close eye on some of these builders out there. Toll Brothers, really strong move on Friday, big push. Again, I wouldn't really want to chase that, but any resting pullback in here would set up that next opportunity for an entry if you're not already in. Keep an eye there on Toll Brothers. You can look at Pulte Homes, also had a really good pop there on Friday. It didn't break quite as high, so this one might be a little bit easier to find that entry into without too much rest on that. Watch PHM. I think that's certainly doable. And then in the materials side of things, if you take a look at XLB, what a zooming move there on Friday. Now we are up here testing this resistance in the chart. We're trying to break through this area. I wouldn't want to chase it here as well, but you guys know that I've been mentioning this as a potential buy in here. Well, it just went all at once. Any little resting pullback in here sets up that opportunity. We might push on through here in XLB, and you can take a look at many of those things in that materials sector. Lots of bullish charts out there for you to pay attention to. For example, Home Depot. Home Depot, very, very bullish here, pushing on through. We've taken this upside trend and we have really steepened it here in this move. Big bullish pop. So again, you may not want to chase that because it's a little bit high risk to your stop loss in here, but any rest or consolidation in here would set up that next opportunity to stretch on through there on Home Depot. Maybe we'll be back up here testing some of these recent highs here soon in that area. If you take a look at Lowe's, Lowe's also doing the same thing, really stretching on up here. Obviously, we've got some resistance in that chart to be considering, but any kind of little consolidating rest in here might ease up that bullish pressure in here where we can get a little bit lower risk entry on that trade. So watch that carefully here in Lowe's. A lot of those material providers out there just doing extremely well and certainly worth paying attention to. Going to continue to mention Seagate. Seagate, a little bit of volatility in here and popped nicely on Friday, breaking through that alert area. Watch this carefully. If we can get any kind of follow-through bullishness here in the market, I would watch for that potential to the upside. Remembering we've got NVIDIA reporting on Wednesday. A good report in NVIDIA could re-inspire all of these software, computer, AI stocks to re-engage to the upside. So watch that carefully here in Seagate. Let's say the same for WDC. WDC trying to get something going here on Friday, pushed up. Any follow through buying in here, I think, could push that right on through to the upside. Keep a close eye on that guy. Take a look at Rig. Now, Rig fell apart here. I had an alert setting up here on Rig, and then we fell apart. We broke this upside trend, and everything was looking ugly here. Like this could actually set up short. Well, Friday changed that in a really big way. A big push back up here. So I wouldn't want to chase this right in here, but if this were to rest in here a few days, look for that next opportunity for that to pop on through. And you can see what I just drew there is a bit of an inverted head and shoulders pattern. So watch that carefully here on Rig. Remember, we saw some of those oil numbers were in decline. We need to really start getting some production going here on oil to pick that up. So watch that carefully here, breaking through this major downtrend. Rig's got some potential here to the upside, so I would watch that carefully if that can get going. I would also get back on the case here of some of these uranium plays here in the market. One of my favorite is UEC. UEC broke support and trend, but then on Friday, nice pop back up here. Again, don't chase that. Make that do a little bit of resting consolidation in there, and then look for that next opportunity in UEC. You could look at URA trying to break back through this resistance. So pop up in here, break and hold. Look for that next opportunity in URA. You got UUUU breaking through that resistance here on Friday in a big stretch. Again, don't chase, but a little rest and consolidation in here sets up that opportunity on UUUU. So watch that carefully in some of these uranium planes. CCJ, not to discount it here, CCJ is another. Unfortunately, CCJs get this little bit of a downtrend in here. We need to pop through this area here to maybe get that going to the upside. So keep an eye on some of those uranium plays. I think it's worth continuing to keep a close eye here on SHOP. SHOP just went too far too fast. Now we've rested back to trend. Watch for this little area in here as this potentially sets up for that next potential move to the upside here in SHOP. I'd keep an eye on Roblex. Roblex caught another upgrade here in the market. This is still that really questionable chart where we could move into a short pattern here. But with that upgrade, I still wonder if this is going to get that energy with the bullishness that we've seen in the market to just break right on through back up into here, and then we can wait for that hold and look for that entry into that trade. So this is one of those charts that could easily go both directions. When you look at Roblex in here, not the best pattern right now, and if the bears were to really start pushing here, you can see if we could break through that area of support. Well, then we've got some downside potential, I think, in Roblex. That would break that 50-day moving average. So watch that carefully in here. Maybe a little bit of question on that one. Watch it pretty closely. Marvel had a big bounce back on Friday as well, pushing back up. If that can hold in here, hold after recovering some of that support, then you look for that next opportunity, see if we can break back on through there on Marvel. Cisco trying to hold up in here as well, crossed back through that resistance. Again, just a little bit of rest worth paying attention to in the chart. Boy, when it comes to the big techs, Google and Alphabet, they're huge. I mean, just a beautiful chart. Excellent setup in here, worth paying attention to. And if we get some good lift out of the market here in big tech with NVIDIA, you might want to be watching here on things like Google and Alphabet in that AI space. So watch that carefully. Guys, I'm sorry I've run this video way too long. So I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. As always, I wish you all the very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.